Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe San Diego here, along with Mara Piacentino, and we have Isha Azim from Racing with Isha. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network. You too can invest in us through Patreon. You'll get some Grid Network stickers mailed out to you, just $10 or more on the YouTube Super Chat or buy me a coffee. You'll also get the stickers mailed out to you as well. And the simplest way to invest in us is hit the bell icon, subscribe, support us through YouTube. And of course, as we're on the air, qualifying is underway at the Indy 500. Scott McLaughlin on the pole right now. Kyle Kerwick second. Kevin Simpson is on the track currently. For Formula One, let's talk about the drivers that just finished up qualifying there for Imola. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. Free practice. We saw a lot of action on Friday. Drivers making a lot of mistakes, including Fernando Alonso. McLaren, they brought their upgrades. Looks like it works on different tracks than Miami. Ferrari also brought upgrades as well, and they look pretty solid. Then there was the balance problems with Red Bull, and I thought this is going to give us an interesting qualifying session today. See how everything will work with the pole. But again, looks like that wasn't to live up. What was not living up? Fernando Alonso. Mistakes. Again, another mistake in Q1. He is starting 20th in the race tomorrow. Dead last. Mara, starting with you, how shocked were you to see Fernando Alonso struggle? And does he have any chance of scoring points tomorrow in the race?
Yeah, I was really shocked actually because I wasn't expecting any mistakes from him, considering his big experience. So yes, it was really strange, and unfortunately, he had some really big problems because even today in qualifying, he was not able to get in Q2. So yeah, I don't think he will be able to get points tomorrow, honestly.
Yeah, I partially agree with Mara there. It was pretty shocking to see Fernando Alonso struggling like that because right now we are seeing that there have been a lot of safety cars and red flags and cautions happening this weekend so far. But to see a driver that's so experienced, a driver like Fernando Alonso struggling and then being stuck in the gravels, that is a little shocking and strange. However, I do think that he will be able to secure some points for the Grand Prix tomorrow. Um, it's probably going to be the bottom few points, but I think that he is going to be able to improve on the weekend so far and get ahead of the drivers, even though he is starting all the way at the end of the pack. But I think that he will be able to secure some points for the race tomorrow.
It'll be really interesting to see what he could do in the race tomorrow. Big thank you to NC Paddock F1 for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Love him or hate him, Max is him. Max is the man. Everyone is chasing, and we encourage everyone to share your comments, opinions with us right here on the air. Let's talk about Max's teammate, Sergio Perez. Crashed early on, hit the barrier, came back for qualifying. Looked like it was going to do okay, but then Q2 just did not have the pace there. Trying to get around Daniel Ricciardo, who has been starting to turn things around with Miami. Could not get around him, so Daniel Ricciardo is in the top 10. Sergio Perez, he'll be starting 11th, just missed out on getting ahead of him. And one of the big things, as I mentioned earlier, there's gravel traps all over. Cars could get stuck. The first lap could be chaotic. We saw this happen in the F3 race, which had 4 safety car periods and finished under a virtual safety car. Isha, how on edge will everyone be, especially on that first lap? Because we know the track is pretty narrow. It's an older track. You got gravel traps. And do you see any driver having an advantage really on that first lap?
Well, Joe, the first lap in almost any Grand Prix is really important, especially so in this race because we know that there are going to be many safety cars or red flags and cautions given tomorrow. We know that that's going to be a very high chance of that happening. So the first lap is going to be crucial for any of the drivers who are starting off in the first few rows. Um, and I think that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are going to be trying to use that first lap to their advantage. Because as you mentioned, it's going to be a tighter start. It's going to be very narrow at the start of the track. And so if they're able to get ahead of Max or to at least be side by side with him, it's going to be very helpful for the remainder of the race. And I think that with that being said as well, there's also going to be a lot of teams and drivers that are going to be trying to bank on strategies that they're going to come up with their teams for possible safety cars, because that's also going to be a very big possibility for tomorrow. So I think that all of these are going to be possible advantages that the drivers should really, really try to maximize on.
Yep, yep, I agree. For the first lap and the starting point and the starting of the race, it's really important. But I'm not that sure that Verstappen will keep his position, honestly. I saw the two McLarens really fast. They have a really good pace on Friday when they were trying the race pace. So I think that tomorrow we can see something different.
Tomorrow's going to be really interesting to see what happens. One of the big things when it comes to tomorrow's race is the factors of the teams trying to figure out how to get around with very little overtaking. Of course, pit strategy, that's going to be the number one way to get around him. In the case of McLaren, right now, and we know there's an investigation going on into Oscar Piastri, they have two cars right behind Max Verstappen, so they could easily try to do push Max, use the overcut, undercut, get around him, ensure one of the vehicles get around him. I have to ask you though, Mara, are you convinced that McLaren has the pace to keep up with Verstappen and use pit strategy to get around him?
Yes, yes, I think they have the pace. The updates that they brought really are working. They were on top on Friday morning, on top on Friday afternoon, and on top also this morning. They couldn't get to the pole because Verstappen, as the comment was saying, is the man. But yeah, they have a better car today than Red Bull.
Yeah, 100% I agree with you, Mara, there. I think that McLaren definitely has the pace to keep up with Verstappen. And all weekend long, they've been performing really, really well. And even in today's qualifying session, in Q3, we saw that, they had very, very close times, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris to Max's. They were only off by a little bit. So I think that they're definitely going to have the race pace tomorrow. And I think that it's actually going to be very interesting to see how the podium falls out tomorrow at the end of the race.
Podium tomorrow, I think it's going to be very exciting to see. I anticipate at least one of the McLarens there, depending on what happens with the penalty. But if there's no penalty, very good, strong chance that you're going to see both of them up there finishing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix turns out. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Yuki Tsunoda does in this race. Yuki Tsunoda, phenomenal qualifying effort at one point on merit, not because of weather or something going out of the ordinary. Laid out a fast lap and was ahead of the two Red Bulls at one point. He is making that V carb working really well. Isha, is Yuki exceeding expectations from this year?
Yes, definitely. I would say so. I mean, I've been very surprised to see his performances this year compared to his performances last season, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job with the V carb. And I think it is being a little bit of a problem for his teammate Daniel Ricciardo because if Yuki's performing so well in the V carb, then Daniel Ricciardo should also be performing better. But I think that at the end of the season, V carb is definitely going to try to keep Yuki and to extend his contract because he's been doing a pretty good job so far this season.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. What's sad for me is that actually everyone is considering to bring back Ricardo to Red Bull, if we talk about driver markets. But no one has ever considered about Yuki. So he needed more time to adapt to Formula One. But he is a name to be considered to me for Red Bull.
Great point. I mean, we've always heard about Daniel Ricciardo being considered coming back, but Yuki Tsunoda has been really outperforming him this year. I mean, just about every race. It'll be really interesting to see how it all turns out, let's do a quick rundown of the top 10 starters. Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc are your first two rows. Then you have Carlos Sainz, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, who we talked about in seventh, Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Nico Hulkenberg are your top 10 starters. 11th, Sergio Perez, who just missed out. Esteban Ocon, give him a shout out. He is making that Alpine work really well, considering everyone's making the memes of it being a tractor this year. He got ahead of Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, and Valtteri Bottas, who was the first out of the drivers that did not make it into Q2. He is 16th with his teammate Juan Yu Zhou, Kevin Magnussen, whose lap was impeded by Oscar Piastri, so that's why their investigation is going on. Fernando Alonso and Logan Sargent, who did not put a lap, essentially struggling again. So F1, that's going to be tomorrow. We're going to be recapping it right here on Grid Life Wrap Up. One update from Indianapolis Motor Speedway before we switch to NASCAR. Only 3 cars have completed their qualifying runs: McLaughlin, Kirkwood, and Kevin Simpson. Rhinus VK was out there. He was the 4th driver to go make a lap, but he crashed. Heavy contact, so now they got to work on getting another car ready to try to enter the race. Once he is done cleaning up the mess, Roman Grosjean will be hitting the track, and then Kyle Larson will be following that. Watch the ticker below. Now let's switch over, Isha, to NASCAR, where Kyle Larson, he's going to have to hopefully fly back in time to not miss the All-Star race.
Yep, that's right, Joe. Taking a look at NASCAR now, the North Wilkesboro Speedway is once again hosting the NASCAR All-Star Race. Last year, Kyle Larson dominated the All-Star Race itself. The All-Star ran open under wet conditions. However, this year, North Wilkesboro Speedway has thrown a curveball with fresh new pavement, adding a new layer of excitement and challenge to the race. Goodyear brought in an option tire so the teams can now use 2 tire compounds. So, Joe, I want to ask you, how challenging do you think this is going to be for the crews and for overall setting up the race weekend?
It's like starting with a blank page on the notebook. You got nothing to reference because last year we were talking about how none of the active drivers had ever raced at North Wilkesboro in a Cup Series car, but you still had to save pavement. So there was hope that, okay, we could simulate how the track grip level is, how it all works. Well, now we have new pavement. Okay, well, maybe we could work on what we know about data-wise when it comes to new pavement, the grip level. Well, now NASCAR threw us an option tire, new tire compounds. This just makes it where the practice sessions we had, where Ryan Blaney was one of the fastest drivers there, they are really now taking down the notes of what to anticipate for the All-Star race. Denny Hamlin had said NASCAR, Goodyear, they're spot on with this tire combination. He was happy. He said this should be some great racing. So we really don't know what to anticipate because the teams are going to be finding ways to get an advantage on each other, whether that's strategy, car setup wise, but they only had that quick practice session. They're going to have a unique qualifying session we'll talk about a little later on. This is, I think, setting up to be potentially one of the classic all-star races where the teams don't know exactly what to anticipate with the setup of the cars, with the tires, the strategy. And at the end of the day, I feel this is going to probably be one of the best all-star races we've had in quite some time.
Wow, definitely. Yeah, potentially could be one of the best all-star races we've had. And then now, if we take a look at the breakdown of the race format, it's going to be 200 laps, 100 laps, a caution, and then another caution at lap 50. Now, all of the drivers are starting on the option tire at the start of the race. To set the starting lineup, Saturday's heat race will determine the grid. So heat 1 will set the inside of the grid, while heat 2 will set the outside. Each heat will be determined by qualifying, including a pit stop. So, Joe, which teams do you believe will have an advantage in the qualifying sessions?
Qualifying, especially with the pit stops and everything, I'm looking at William Byron's team. They are very good consistently week in and week out. Kyle Larson's team, they got Kevin Harvick behind the wheel. So it'll be really interesting. Is Kevin Harvick fully up to speed? He's only been out of the car since last November. So I anticipate he still has speed, the ability to get used to that car because he hasn't driven for Rick Hendrick before. He's going into Chevrolet after many years in a Ford. A little bit of a learning curve, but I think he could still deliver. And then, of course, last week we saw RFK racing. That pit crew was stellar. Now that he got the win, he's on the All-Star race. He doesn't have to worry about anything. Granted, he's a past champion, so he was already going to be in there in the first place. The big thing, the confidence, we're coming off a win thanks to the pit crew. I think he's going to be very excited to see what the pit crew could do, potentially get him out towards the front. Tyler Reddick, 2311. Ish, I don't know what to think of their pit crew. They're hit or miss. They're really great, like Darlington, or they're really lousy. And we're talking about them in the group chat of, they're just going to mess up the pit stops. So I don't know where they're going to stack up. If they deliver a fast one, Tyler Reddick to the front. If it's a poor one, well, Tyler Reddick's going to have some work to do. Those are some of the favorites, I think, when it comes to qualifying and the pit stop challenge.
Definitely, Joe. Those are some great picks. Now, the Open will be the last chance for the drivers to get in the All Star race. Two will transfer, and one will win the All Star vote. Now, these are some of the drivers in the Open that are former winners. So we have Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, and Alex Bowman. Only three at max may make it out of those six past winners. So, Joe, do any of those past winners have a clear advantage? What do you think?
How did those past winners, Bubba Wallace, but I'm only saying that because last year he finished second place to Kyle Larson, who just dominated the race. But now we got a new pavement. Now we got a new tire compound. Does he still have that advantage? It's going to be really hard to say. I do think he has been closest to getting a win, him and Alex Bowman, compared to Austin Dillon, just struggling this year. When you look at Austin Cindric, started off pretty good, but has tampered down, not doing a whole lot. Eric Jones, he's back after an injury. I think he'll love to get his season turned around for the better. And Chase Briscoe, we know he got a win at Phoenix a couple years ago, but I just feel like he is not exactly a driver capable of going out there and getting a win this weekend. In fact, it's just very interesting. Stewart-Haas Racing, all four of their cars are in the Open. There's a possibility we might see 0 Stewart-Haas Racing cars in the All-Star race. And with all the rumors of the charters being sold, rumors of Chase Briscoe looking at the Wood Brothers team, that Noah Gregson's talking to the teams, this is really, I think, starting to become an issue where people are saying there's something going on in Stewart-Haas Racing that maybe the drivers are aware of or they're not aware of, but they're looking at themselves as, where do I want to be next year? If there's no Stewart-Haas Racing cars in the All-Star race, I think this is sort of the first red flag that something's up, and don't expect all four cars from Stewart-Haas back next year. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that.
Yep. Now, I'd like to know, Joe, do you have any fan vote predictions?
Oh, the fan vote. I sort of want to see Carson Hocevar win just because he trolled, for those that are not familiar, he trolled 3 other NASCAR drivers on Cameo pretending to be a high schooler named Carson in the election. And then he used their cameos of, look, these drivers want me to get in the All-Star race, which has made it hilarious. So I think I would love to see him get in just to see that comic side trick get him in. But we got to look at Noah Gregson. He got in last year with the vote. He's been running really strong this year. So I think this year his fans are really motivated. People are seeing what he's gone through, being suspended last year, going through the sensitivity training, saying he has learned a lot and what he did was just immature and unacceptable. I think people are going to be saying, hey, he's turning his season around. They're going to vote him in. So I think those are the 2 drivers that are really got a shot at it. Everyone else, I think the best thing to do is just try to be the top 2 finishers and advance in.
Yep, definitely. And now the All-Star Race weekend will have heat races happening today and the main race happening tomorrow. We also had supercars today and tomorrow. So, Joe, let's see a recap of the race 1.
Yeah, let's recap race 1 and just an update from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The track has been cleared off from Ryan's VK's crash. Roman Grosjean is now on the track making his qualifying run. Of course, once Roman Grosjean gets his lap done, then Kyle Larson will be hitting the track. Everyone following Kyle Larson is trying to become the next driver to do the double of the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 in the same day. Roman Grosjean just crossed the finish line with a speed of 231.514, good enough for 4th place. let's get into supercars. Supercars, Chaz Mostert got his first win of the year and Ford's first win of the year. A big accomplishment for him and the team. And especially this race, we did not see Triple Eight racing on the front row. No Will Brown. Will Brown came home second place though, so he extends his points lead over his big rival and teammate Brock Feeney, who came home in fifth place. This race had a ton of action. One of the big crashes that we saw, Richie Stanaway got contact from Love, and next thing you know, he was hard into the wall. He was okay though, but a big moment in the race. Cam Waters, Ford, their first win. They had to be feeling really good about that, especially for Ford. They had essentially Cam Waters in the podium, Chaz Mostert, your winner, Ryan Wood. So you had three Fords in the top five. The only two non-Fords were the two Triple H Chevrolets, both of them Red Bull. So similar to F1, Red Bull just controlling that. And supercars will be racing tomorrow to see who will win the last couple of races. Let's bring in Martin to all play our favorite game and who will win in Pick a Winner.
Yes, Joe. So time for pick a winner. This week we have Formula One P7, NASCAR, and Supercar. So let's start with Formula One race in Imola. Isha, what's your name?
This one is tough because usually you can just say Max Verstappen and it's easy. But because at Imola there's going to be, safety cars and cautions and red flags, it's tough because really any of the drivers behind him could also have a good chance. But I'm going to play it safe and I'm going to go with Max Verstappen.
All right, Joe.
Oh boy. Knowing that there's a penalty potentially coming, I want to pick Oscar Piastri, make it two McLarens in a row. Lando Norris, I just don't think exactly had the pace. I think I have to play safe too and go with Max Verstappen as well.
All right, I'll go with Norris. Then Formula One P7, Isha.
I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton for P7.
Joe?
I'm going to go with his teammate, George Russell, for P7.
Okay, I'll go with Hülkenberg. And then we have NASCAR.
For NASCAR, my pick is going to be Kyle Larson.
Ooh, Kyle Larson. He's right now on the track for Indy, so if he could get a good run, he'll be in the All-Star race. I think I'm going to go with the driver that also is looking pretty good at North Wilkesboro, Ryan Blaney.
All right, and the last supercars.
Supercars, my pick is going to be Will Brown.
I'm gonna go with Will Brown. See Brock Feeney. I think he is motivated to see what he could do, catch up to everybody. With that said, that is all for our show today. Of course, we're following everything going on this race weekend, so be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon. Don't miss any of our programs because we're going to be on the air again tomorrow, Monday, Wednesday, next Thursday, and then again all over right here. A ton of programming, and of course our big Indianapolis 500 special. You do not want to miss that. Hit the bell icon as I mentioned. The other ways you can support us: YouTube Super Chat, buy me a coffee, or become a Patreon investor in the Grid Network. We appreciate calling the show Mark, Robin, David for investing in us. Matthew, one of our newest ones. If you signed up, your name will be in gold as well too. A big thank you to NC Paddock F1 for the super chat earlier today. And we still got another comment in the chat room. It's somebody else's pick a winner. Adam says he's going to go with Max Verstappen, which I think a lot of people will do. Byron as well, and Will Brown. P7, Russell, Newgarden wins the pole for Indy 500, and of course Indy 500 next weekend. Special pre-race on Sunday before the race after Monaco. For Mara and Isha, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.